part of ultra running. As we seek the buckles, the finish lines, and the crazy distances, we experience a lot of failure along the way too. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Michelle, and we're both ultra runners and ultra running coaches who want to know more about the dreaded DNF, how, when, and why they happen, but more importantly, how we learn, we move forward, and we get back up to run again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Run That Again. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Heidi Baker.
And I'm Michelle Goldberg.
And we are here to talk about DNFs and the hard races, the hard days in ultra running, and how we can deal with them, learn from them, and grow from them. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you can leave us a review and share with your family and friends, it's always super helpful and appreciated.
We are super excited to welcome today a Pennsylvania ultra runner named Kaylee Frederick to our show. Hey, Kaylee.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
We're so excited to have you here. So I threw together just a couple of bullet points to introduce Kaylee. So Kaylee is an accomplished ultra runner with many podium finishes during the past 5 years. And if you look at her ultra sign up, you've got, I think, 32 races on ultra sign up just in the past 5 years. But I know your most recent race is not in there yet. So like at least 33 races just on ultra sign up, not to mention any other platforms that might have done registration, right? From what I have found, your first ultra and what you shared with us, your first ultra was in June 2019, so just 5 years ago. That was your first 50K. And I think like a lot of folks, you've progressed from 50K to a 50 miler. And your first 100 miler was Pine Creek 100 in September 2021. And you've got more than, and correct me if it's more than 8 races of 100 miles or more, which includes the Buckeye Ultra 200 road race. So it's actually a 203-mile race. That's the longest to date. Also includes 2 Badwater 135 finishes. So for folks not familiar, go have some fun on the internet and look up the Badwater race series. Badwater 135 is known as the world's toughest foot race. Kaylee's done it twice, and all the other Badwater races too. Badwater Cape Fear, Salton Sea, like it's a stout running record. What shocks a lot of folks, I think, is that Kaylee is 19 years old. So, like, you're talking an incredible amount of accomplishment in the last 5 years, starting with that 50K when you were only 14 years old. It's phenomenal. But I think in addition to all that running, from what I've known of Kaylee, she's an extraordinary human, just such a gift, wise beyond her years. She's a college student with a double major, a prolific worker with an incredible work ethic. I think currently holds how many jobs, Kaylee? 4?
Yeah. 4.
4 jobs. So, Kaylee, we're just so excited to talk with you. And I feel like a lot of folks probably want to jump right into your age, and I know that gets a lot of attention, rightfully so, because it's so impressive what you've done at your age. But I think there's so much more to you than that. And we're really excited to talk with you a bit today.
That was quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'll just have you do the introductions from now on, Michelle. That was excellent.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I mean, there's so much to start with, and I think you've had such an extraordinary record. I listened to you. You were just recently a guest on Liz Myers, a Tribe of Runners podcast, which shout out to Liz Myers. For everybody, go check out her new podcast, a Tribe of Runners. It's a great listen. Give her a follow. But it was really fun just to hear you talk a little bit about your origin into running. I think that was recorded right before this year's Badwater 135.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like maybe a month or so before this year's
Okay,
race.
so when was Badwater 135?
July 22nd.
Okay, so not even a month ago.
Just 3 weeks ago, I think. As of
3
today, 3
weeks.
weeks ago.
Okay. So, tell the listeners, in a nutshell about Badwater 135, because there might be some people listening who are not familiar with it.
All right, so Badwater 135, as Michelle said, is known as the world's toughest foot race. It starts in Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, negative 282 feet below sea level. And then you run through Death Valley, which is the hottest place in the world. And then you go over 3 mountain ranges. So you go over like the Stovepipe climb up the Town Pass, and then you go up Father Crowley, and then you go up Mount Whitney, and you end at Whitney Portal, which is the trailhead to Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in the continental U.S. It has 14,600 feet of elevation, and it takes place in July, the hottest month, because why not?
Because if you're gonna go tough and hot, you might as well go all in.
Exactly.
It's incredible. Now, this was the second time that you ran it. Um, it was pretty extraordinary that you ran last year, in part because, well, you happen to be the youngest ever finisher of the race last year at the age of 18. And from what I understand, it was not easy for you to get into the race.
Oh, not at all. It was not
And
easy to get in last year.
truthfully, it's not easy for anyone. Like, this is a race where runners apply and they have to be selected. Do you know what the percentage of people chosen is? Like,
I don't know how many people apply, but I know like they only select 100 people from around the world. And
don't they try to keep it like, I know Emily Lyons. I'm sure you know her
yeah.
since you've run Badwater twice the same year she has. But she explained it to me as once that they take in a certain percentage of new people too. Like, they want it to be like open for people to get in and try. So like it's hard to get in as like a returning runner too.
Yeah, it's roughly 30% veterans, 70% rookies. So
Oh, wow.
once you've done it once, it just makes it that much harder to get in because they accept less veterans.
Like, you hurt your own chances just by doing it once.
Yeah, really.
But I mean, you have to demonstrate a record. You have to demonstrate your qualifiers to get in. I understand, like, your chances are better of being selected if you've run any of the other Badwater races, if you've ever crewed at the race. And if you have crewed or you do know other people, like, you can actually have folks basically write a statement on your behalf. Like, basically, you need letters of recommendation to accompany your application.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Badwater is they have your race history, obviously your race resume, but then they also have other questions
Huh.
like why do you want to run? What does Badwater mean to you? What is the meaning of life? Like, they change the questions every year, but there's actually an essay portion because they want to know that you're a good person and
Oh,
what you're
wow.
like, why you want to run, that you want to do it for the right reasons.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So
La- Last year when you ran, you were the youngest ever to finish, and absolutely extraordinary for anyone of any age to finish in any amount of time. And I think last year your time was somewhere around 40 hours or so.
40:06 last year,
That's
which
That's
incredible.
crazy.
thank you. It was last year was a dream. Like, it was amazing last year. It was so surreal to be the youngest person to do it. Every step, even when it was hard, it was just amazing.
That's so incredible. What made you want to do it again this year?
I knew that I had a lot left to give last year. I mean, I was a slower runner last year, but last year I was really just living on the high of being the youngest runner, and I kind of took my time because I was just having fun. I was enjoying it, and obviously it was hard. I still pushed myself, but I just knew I could do a lot better. And as I get older, like, I want to start competing and like running faster. So I know there's more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it seems like you are such a strong runner. I think that would be a fun dynamic or a fun thing to kind of tap into a bit tonight as we talk. Um, so so coming into 135 this year, my understanding is that you had some time goals. Like, you you had a goal that you really were shooting for. What was the goal as you were going into it?
So my A goal was 33 if everything went perfect. I wanted to. So the boys' record 10 to 19 is like 33:20 something, set by Nicodemus Holland. I think back in 2009 when he was 19. So I wanted to beat his time, so I could just have the overall age group
Yeah.
record. But that didn't happen. My B goal was 36 hours, which was like my realistic goal. I knew I could realistically do that. Which I did do. I was 36:13, I believe was the minutes. But I really wanted that 33. I didn't really tell anyone how badly I wanted that 33. So it was very difficult. This year, this race was one of the first times I guess I've like failed. Not that I failed, but normally when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And it
Yeah.
was it was very hard mentally to work through that. It was difficult.
Was there like a
Yeah.
certain point in the race where you kind of knew that that goal was gone or like had become unattainable? And can you like
Yeah.
talk us through like that mindset shift of kind of, because I know
Yeah.
it's hard when you know that goal that you had set in your brain, even if you haven't vocalized it to anybody, like that goal you set in your mind, and then the minute you know it's gone, it gets harder to move forward. Like it gets
Mm-hmm.
a lot harder to move forward. I know. And even though you didn't quit and you still reached that B goal, like talk us through that kind of like mental process of, realizing you couldn't hit that, and how you kind of kept yourself moving in such an incredibly tough race too.
So the first 68 miles, I was perfectly on my splits. I was doing really, really well. And then going down into Panamint, which is at mile 72, that's considered like the halfway point of the race. It's like just a really kind of, you're on the downhill after that, even though you still have two big climbs left. But that's the hottest part of the race. And I was, like I said, I was doing really great. The climb from mile 42 to 58, I believe, or 57, I did really well with my pacing. I was doing like a 5 minute or 5-to-1 walk run ratio, 140-second walk, 20-second run. And like I passed so many people. I ended up like leading the group I was in. I wasn't in like the fast group, but I was the next person behind them. Like from what I know, it's hard to tell with a rolling start, but I was feeling really good. I was doing really well. I was very pleased with myself. That climb went so much better than last year. And then like down into Panamint, it's a nice 13-mile downhill and then flat. And then the heat hit me all at once. And then I was like, oh crap. It was not great. So I was with a pacer. We took the last 4 miles into Panamint slower. So I was like, I built up a little bit of a buffer from my time. And then at Panamint, I got there and I got a cheese quesadilla and I ate it, and then I was like, okay, I gotta go. I was so concerned with hitting that 33 that I didn't take the time to actually take care of myself, because my core temperature skyrocketed. And as soon as you leave Panamint, you have like an 8-mile climb that's pretty steep, and then that whole entire climb, I kept having to like stop and get in the van. And I would sit for like 3 minutes and then I'd be like, I have to go. When I should have just sat one time for 30 minutes, got my core temperature down, because then I could have killed the climb like I killed the last one. And then that going up that climb is when I was like, I screwed up. I was like, I ruined my race. And I know I didn't, but mentally that's
mentally it's
And I was just so depressed. And my crew chief was like, you need a mental reset. You need to sleep or like just sit for like 15 minutes. And it wasn't even dark, but I ended up taking like a 20-minute nap, which wasn't planned, which then put me 20 minutes behind. And that's actually where I lost all hope of placing or doing anything well. Everyone caught me there. And so when I woke up, and there were no crew vehicles around me before, no runners around me, and I woke up and then I just see all these crew cars, and I'm like, I just got passed by everyone. And I'm like, so I just had this mental reset, but then I get up and it just kind of sets in again that it's all gone. That's all I could think about. And it took me so long to get to the point where I could be, let's just get to the finish. The time doesn't really matter anymore. Like a 36 is still attainable pretty easily. Like with a little walk run, honestly, mostly walking. My times were so slow at the end. But just mentally, and I kept telling my crew, I was like, I'm not even going to be proud of this finish because I didn't earn it. I didn't do what I wanted. Now, we've gotten over that. I know it was still a good finish now. And like now I know it was still better than last year. But I learned a lot, and I know I have more to give. I know I can run that time. I know I'm fully capable of running that time. I just had to learn a lot. Learned a lot in that time.
It's tough. It's really tough.
How did you make that mental shift from like the end of the race and being like disappointed with that to where you're at now, and like you learned and you feel kind of at peace with it, that you can move forward and take those lessons? Like, what's your process like when you have like a disappointing outcome like that?
It was very difficult at first. I didn't want to talk about it at all. Like I came home and everyone was obviously like, congratulations, like you cut 4 hours off. And someone,
which is huge.
Like, I know, but people would say that and I'm like, yeah, thank you. But in my head, I'm like, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't what I wanted. And I just mentally, like, I hated myself. It was not healthy. I was in a downward spiral mentally. And I talked to my coach and he was like, we need to think about where we're going. Like, we can't stay stuck here because it's in the past and I can't go change it now. And I also talked to my good friend Star. She's a blessing. She's run Badwater twice. She's crewed it twice. She was on the race staff this year. She was a blessing this year, especially. She helped me so much. And I talked to her for over an hour. and I was just like crying, and I was like, I don't know what to do because it was Badwater, and it was still an amazing experience, and it was still good. I got to see all my friends, and I didn't want to take away from that, but I was just so torn up that I could have done better, and I should have done better. I was capable of doing better, but I didn't. And I had this big thing that, like, I needed to prove to people I was a good runner and not just the young girl, because
Yeah, I can
like
understand that.
yeah, I'm 19 now, and I'm like, okay, I'm almost 20. Like, I know I'm still young for the sport, but people aren't going to care about that anymore now that I'm going to be like 20 years old. So I really wanted to show that I can run. I'm not just a young girl. But I felt like I didn't do that, and it was just really hard. Even talking about now, I know I'm still getting over it
Yeah,
some,
we can. I
Yeah.
mean,
but it's,
definitely, it just sounds like that. It's kind of like the emotional devastation.
Yeah.
mhm,
Um, I I was wondering, like, I definitely want to get into that piece a little more, but I wonder if you could describe for folks when you say your core got hot and you know
Yeah.
you're running in the desert, it is you're in Death Valley. Like it is so friggin' hot. This race is on the pavement, it's on the road. Like you're fully exposed. There is no tree cover whatsoever. Can you describe for folks, sort of physiologically, what is that feeling? What does it feel like to run in that kind of heat? Like, what's going on in your body? Like, what?
Because most of us can't even fathom.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, oh, yeah, it was hot. But, like, I just think it might be, like, just if you could describe, like, what it actually feels like.
so, well, I'll say the first 17 miles of the race, there was a 45-mile-per-hour headwind, and
Oh,
I can describe that as not like a cooling breeze. Imagine standing in front of a heater that's blowing at you 45 miles per hour. That's what that felt like. It was terrible.
wow.
It's awful.
It was,
Wasn't it like kind of raining at the start
yeah.
too?
Yeah, which made it more humid then.
Yeah, like
Plus
that's
those
just like
headwinds.
hot
Yeah.
rain that just sounds
Mhm.
awful.
And
Yeah.
like sand in the air, right? Like I read about
Mhm.
people trying to cover their face and wearing goggles and
Yeah, the 8 o'clock wave got hit with a dust storm. Like right after the rain, they got hit with a dust storm. We got lucky in the 9 and 10 that we didn't get the dust storm, but it was still rough. But like later in the race, when my core temperature decided to go crazy, it's like, um, it's hard to describe. It's whenever you're working out and you feel like you're overheating and you're breathing so heavy and you just can't really catch your breath. It's like that, but it's like your body is doing that. Not that you're out of breath, but like your head is like that. And like
like that
you're
throbbing,
yeah,
pulsating.
yeah, really. And it's like you're just so hot, but you can't stop. Because even when you do stop, if you get in the car, like the AC there can only do so much. You're not gonna get
Yeah.
it
Mm-hmm.
down to 50 degrees, 60 degrees, 70 degrees. You might get it down to like 90 or 100 out there because the AC is working as hard as it possibly can out there. So it's like there's not really a lot of relief. And then also the pavement is so freaking hot. So I get heat rash almost all the time when I'm out there. It's like that's one of the worst parts too, the reflection of like
Oh
the
gosh.
heat coming back up from the pavement. It's just like your calves are burning. They just feel like they're
It's
on
gotta be
fire.
like walking in an oven. Like
Yeah.
I um I had a hot race last weekend and I learned like when the air temperature is 95 degrees, the pavement and asphalt is like 150 degrees. So you're talking about a place where it's the air temperature is even hotter than that and it's dry and you're literally cooking in the sun. And even though for the race, your crew is following along and you have this support vehicle sort of as often as you need it every couple few miles. But like that, the road, you're basically walking on the surface of an oven. It's a heating element
Yeah.
in addition to all the other hotness around you.
Yeah, there's a reason it's like Stovepipe Wells, Furnace Creek. There's a reason they're called that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
That's
I
crazy.
mean, that is incredibly difficult to manage. And once your core gets that hot, your system can kind of become overloaded, and I think then when the thought process, I know, when sounds like you started feeling that sort of panicky feeling, like I have to go faster, I have to keep going, I have, but like when you get panicky, you get that hot, flashy, like,
I mean, that raises your core temperature in itself, just
totally,
stress, like in general.
yeah,
Yeah, it was all, and it all was at once, and just this feeling of failure when it set in. I was like, this isn't good. Wasn't good at all. But it's okay. We work
I
through
feel
it.
like
We don't quit.
I feel like
yeah,
Badwater, as opposed to like other ultra marathons too, like so many races, there's such a mental toll that it takes like the planning and the logistical stuff. But Badwater just adds this whole new layer of like logistical things that you have to think about. And I know probably a lot of that is put on crew, but I'm sure there's still a lot as the runner, like that you have to like think about, like the amount of water that you are consuming and making sure you're keeping up with that, and like the amount of electrolytes you're consuming and stuff. Like it's not just like you can think, okay, I'm feeling good, I've had, and like it's something that you really need to keep track of for safety reasons.
yeah.
And I feel like just the mental load of like ultra running can be hard, but then add like something that for your own health and well-being you need to like be on top of things like that adds a whole new layer of
Requires
stress.
so much more energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
And
remember Emily posting that she had like two like extra like sizes up of shoes to change into because her feet went up like 2 sizes during the race. And I was like, that's how do you even think of that? Like, but it's true. It's just so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, with that, part of my issue this year, last year was like my mother did everything and it was very simple. And so like I was the runner the whole time. Even before the race, I was the runner. But this year, I had to do everything myself, and my crew members, I had like 2 crew members drop. My crew chief dropped, so I had to find a new crew chief. I had to
Oh, you're
find a new crew
kidding.
member.
Gosh.
Yeah. My crew was amazing. The 3
Yeah,
people that
yeah,
I did end up with, like, they were probably the best people that I could have asked to be there. But just like dealing with all of that and then trying to
like
find
last minute, that's
Yeah.
such an
That's a
additional
lot.
Yeah.
amount, even though like that's such an additional amount of like stress, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. Yeah.
Yeah, and then to make it even worse, we were flying out on the Friday that Microsoft shut down. So
Oh my gosh.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so 3 of our 4 flights were canceled. So then I was scrambling to find flights to Vegas, and I spent like $1,500 in like
Oh my
10 hours.
gosh.
It was, yeah, and so I'm thinking about all of that like 2 days
And that's
before the
all
race.
before you even got there, before
Yeah.
you even got to start.
Yeah, so I feel like that also played a role where like last
Oh,
year,
yeah.
last year, like, I just thought about running and how I was gonna cross the finish line and how, like, and I was envisioning everything so much, but this year, I didn't do any of that. Like, I didn't even think about how I was gonna finish the race. How was I gonna cross the finish line? Like, I didn't think about that once, but last year, I probably thought about it, like, 10 times a day. Because I was just the runner. But this year, there's just so
Wow.
much
So
stress.
let's reframe your race. All that
100%.
stuff happened, all that beginning stress, and you still shaved 4 hours off of last year. I mean, that's still incredible. Like just like
flights
shipping,
were
like
canceled, mad crazy scramble. Like for folks that like the context, there was a major like system wide computer down, like computers down for all the airlines and all over the place. Flights are scrambled, you're scrambling, you had to drop an unexpected, massive extra chunk of change, it sounds like, for what's already a very expensive adventure.
Yes.
Crew change, your crew chief is gone. Your regular crew chief, and like your mom has crewed most of your races in the past 5 years, but she is also badass and is out conquering the Appalachian Trail right now, right?
Yes, but she's actually finished. She actually
No
finished
way!
it.
Gosh,
Oh,
that's
congrats.
awesome.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll tell her
so
you
like
guys said that.
there are a lot of things, a lot of major extra stressors just leading up to getting there. So you get there, you're frazzled, you're tired, you're behind, everything's a little bit chaotic, you're probably short on sleep. My guess is you didn't have the type of opportunity that we usually do leading up to a race to really be fueling, to be extra hydrating. Like, you put it together the best you could. You got to the start line, got nailed with a storm and 45-mile-an-hour headwinds, and like, and you went out there and you did the thing, and holy shit, girl, you took 4 hours off your time. Despite fully overheating. I mean, what you're talking about is kind of the start of like heat stroke type of stuff. Like, like that really, 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 if you hadn't done that reset 20-minute nap, you might have gone so far over the edge that you wouldn't have been able to finish at all. So, yes, you took 20 minutes and you slept and folks caught up to you. But you might have saved your entire race in that time and made it possible just to keep going, made it possible to continue. Like, when you step back objectively and you look at all those things that you navigated and that you put together and you still pulled off, you took 4 hours off your finish time from last year. That is huge. It really is.
When you put it that way.
Well, see, and that's sometimes it really helps, like to just put it a different way and to kind of step back and look at it objectively.
Yeah, and I also keep reminding myself that the grass isn't always greener. I keep saying, like, I screwed up, I should have done this better in Panama, I should have taken the break there. But I also need to think, had I taken the break earlier, and then had I killed the climb the way I wanted to, I still could have had something else happen later.
Exactly.
Like, it's an ultra, anything can happen.
Yeah,
and like
it's unpredictable.
Like I barfed my guts out, but I could have barfed my guts out 4 times instead of
Right.
1. Like other things could have happened, and I just have to remind myself that we did the best we could.
Yes. You totally did the best you could in a really, really tough scenario and constellation of stressors and like extra things. And like Heidi was saying, ultra running is friggin' hard to begin with. There's a bajillion different things you have to navigate and figure out, right? But you had extras. You had extras thrown in for this. And I think that probably that 20-minute pause might have been the smartest thing you could have done, even though it didn't exactly turn out with, the ideal way. And now when you were talking about your goals, you said that your 33-hour goal was the A goal if everything went perfect, right? How likely is it for anything to ever totally go perfect?
Not very likely, but everything, it was going perfect, and then
It was.
and then it wasn't, and then it
feel like
real quick.
It's always perfect until it's not.
Until it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always really easy to look back on a race too and think like, well, why didn't I just do that? Because that would have
Yeah.
like changed everything. I wish I would have just done that and then everything would have been fine. But then you have to like actually shift your perspective and go back to like how you actually felt in that
In the
moment and
moment.
what was going on. And there was probably not really another outcome at that time in your mindset and your, like
Yeah.
I've had several DNFs and it's like easy to look back and be like, I could have just kept going. Like, why didn't I just keep going? And then like it's like looking back at, that moment and it's like, but no, there was a reason that happened at that moment. Like this,
Yeah.
and
It's
for me,
it's
it's like something I do is I always journal like almost as like quickly as I can after the race, usually the next day, because I want to like be able to have something tangible to be like, no, remember what it was like in this moment, because our memory tricks us and we think, oh, I should have just done this or I should have done that because it wasn't that bad or whatnot. But like to actually like look back and see what it was truly like in that moment.
Yeah, the psychological term for that is hindsight bias.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
have a hindsight bias, and we tend to look in hindsight, we say hindsight is 2020. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
look back at something, it's crystal clear. You're like, "Oh my God, I should have just eaten the thing and I would have like that would have made a world, whatever it was." But that's our today, comfortable, safe, and secure in our happy places. That's our today bias. Looking back on in that moment, you did everything you possibly could have. And had you kept pushing and not taken that time and not slowed down, you probably would have puked 8 or 10 more times. You might have been unable to like recover from that overheating moment at all. Like if you hadn't been able to lower your temperature just enough to start getting food in you again or getting fuel in you again, you'd have totally hit the wall.
Yeah.
So
Sorry. I was
no,
gonna say,
I
I
was
feel
gonna
like
say like for what you had, for the options that you had and everything that was going on, it sounds like you did fantastic.
yeah, but I feel like that's also why, as ultra runners, in the moment, we're like, we're never gonna do this again. But then after,
Yep.
like, we always go back because even though it sucks so bad in the moment, and your feet hurt, and you're mentally screwed up, and you're crying, and you're in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the desert, wherever you're at, like, at least for me, I crave those moments. In the moment, it
Yeah.
sucks, but like after, I want to get back there and I want to find that pain cave and see how
Yep.
deep it goes. And thinking about it, now I'm like, it goes a lot deeper, but in the moment, I am getting as far as I can.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure we can all relate to that. We're like, oh, yeah, I want to be back there. Yeah, totally.
We're all a little crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. This is totally true. But it's interesting to think about like looking at that. And so we sent you a handful of like pre-show questions just to get to know you a little bit and ask a little bit about you. And one of the questions was about like what would you see as like one of your bigger challenges to work on? Because we've all got them. Like sometimes I call it my kryptonite or like something that I know is really tough. Um, and you talked about how you'd like to learn balance. And you mentioned this earlier in the show, how as you're getting faster, you're getting more experienced, and like, no doubt, like, you are a super strong runner and you want to compete more. Like, you've got to, you run with your heart, but you've got a competitive side to you, like a lot of us do, and you want to sort of be able to compete and be able to hang and move up in your accomplishments. But what you said was, I need to remember to have fun and run with my heart, even if even if I'm trying to run fast. And I think
Yeah.
that's that maybe that's kind of that balance that you're talking about, is like knowing that you need to really listen to your body, like enjoy what you're doing, because you're in this for the long haul, right? Like this is not a this is not a phase. Um, so being able to stay connected to the pure joy of it, and that real reason why we run, but at the same time be able to push yourself and challenge yourself to like move up to each next level. So that was long-winded, but like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so even just in terms of Badwater, like last year, I wasn't concerned about racing at all, really. In most of my races, I wasn't concerned about racing. But like Badwater, I was all about the experience. I was having fun the whole time. Anytime someone said they saw me, they said I was smiling, even in the second night when I was so tired and it was getting difficult. Like I was still just smiling because I was enjoying every single step because I knew that it was genuinely my dream and my dream was coming true. And no matter what, even when it sucked, I was living my biggest dream. And so I just had so much fun and I was living, living, genuinely living and thriving. And then this year, I kind of took the other extreme and I was so concerned about my time. It was 33, 33, 33, 33 that I didn't enjoy the experience as much. I still enjoyed
Right.
it. And even within just this year, I need to have balance where I can think it wasn't what I wanted, but it was still an enjoyable experience. Just even on that level, it was still
Yeah.
it's still Badwater. But this year, I just really focused so much on that time. And then when I knew I wasn't going to hit that time, I let it destroy me. And then I just wasn't great. So I need to be able to find, like, remember my why, remember why I'm running. I love this sport. It is
Yeah.
genuinely my greatest passion. Like, no one's forcing me to be out here. I just love to run. I really
Yeah.
do. And I don't want to ever lose that from being so concerned about a podium spot, being so concerned with competing, but at the same time, I do want to start competing. So I just need to make sure I remember why I'm running and I remember
Yep.
that I love the sport. And even if I don't get my A goal and even if I don't take a podium spot when I was really going for one, that I'm still doing what I love to do. Either way.
I think that's really well said. And I think that's where I think you've got such great insight, even just to recognize that. Like, I know a lot of people that have been doing this for much, much longer, and they still don't quite have the insight to recognize that the need, yeah, just it's so easy to get hung up on our goals, and especially in the social media world that we live in, to do like just that whole dreadful comparison game. Like it comes so naturally to us each. But then that really can rob us of our joy and our own self-satisfaction. Um,
Yeah, and I just need to remember, like, when I started ultra running, I was 14 years old, and I started as a back of the packer. I was always slow when I started.
yeah,
I was young and inexperienced. I was slow. Even like last year at all the blacklist races, like Eastern States 100, World's End, Black Forest, and Heiner, I was pretty much back of the pack for all those, but I had fun. They were hard races, they really were, but
those are really
I,
hard races.
Crazy hard
but
races.
like I was just running because I like running, and I just
Yeah.
need to remember that I I like running. I love running.
I feel like
Yeah.
you just in like the answers you gave in like the little pre-interview questionnaire and then like the answers you've given today, just, and not to constantly put emphasis on your age, but for a 19-year-old to have such insight into yourself and like knowing yourself and your your tendencies and your, desires and like seeking balance, like that's something I didn't have as a 19-year-old. Like this, it's truly like incredible. And I feel like that's something ultra running teaches us, because we get to know ourselves. And like, so you have this like advantage, some people might look at it and think that you're young and you're inexperienced in the sport, but man, what an advantage it is that you are like learning those things about yourself so early, like, and like fine tuning those things so early. I think it's just you don't speak like a 19-year-old about yourself. Like you have so much insight into your the way you are, and like it feels like you truly know yourself like deeply, and I don't think many of us can say that about ourselves.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're trying. There's definitely stuff that I have to work on. There's stuff we all have to work
Of
on.
course, there's
Yeah.
always
You
things to
yeah,
100%.
you definitely learn a lot about yourself and like what's important and what you really can push through and how strong you really are whenever you're miserable 70 miles into a race and you still have a 50K to go and it's dark out and you're tired and you haven't eaten in 20 miles. Like you learn a lot. And I mean, I feel like people say I grew up fast. A lot of people say I was never a teenager. I went from like 11 to 30, but it happens. Sometimes life is rough and life throws things at you, and you just have to be resilient and perseverant. And if that means maturing quickly and having to grow up faster, then so be it. Because
Yep.
you do what you got to do. Like,
I wonder, like, if some people may, like, I feel like for you that is separate from ultra running. Like
mhm.
you you have wisdom that it's almost like ultra running maybe has been sort of a vehicle to
Yeah.
help you blossom and like really grow in this incredible way. Like, oh my goodness, thank goodness that you had this friend when you were 14 who ran a 100-mile race, and you got to crew them, right? And that was kind of your intro to the ultra world and this like realm of possibilities. Thank goodness that that found you. Or I think it's maybe more that it found you than you found it. I don't know, but man, that's just really cool. It's so incredible.
Yeah, and I know, like, I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for ultra running, but had the crappy things that happened to me when I was a child, I know that I wouldn't be a good ultra runner if it wasn't for those things that like make you
Yeah.
mentally hard, because I feel like that's why a lot of people my age aren't ultra runners and they don't enjoy running and things, because they don't have the mental capacity to go through pain. But for
Mhm.
me, I'm like, physical pain doesn't mean anything because emotionally we've been through so much worse. So I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, and like you said, like I feel like ultra running, it's genuinely changed my life. And running, I feel like, has saved my life in so many ways. And I'm so thankful for everyone that's helped me along the way.
It's so awesome. It's so inspiring. I feel the same way about running. And it is interesting how often you talk with other ultra runners, and I mean, I guess it's really common just in humans in the general population, but it does seem to be something about ultra runners where I think a lot of us have deep stories, of things that we've gone through and overcome and have learned a lot from, that have been really shaping and defining, like, the not so good stuff. Um, and come to this place where we do this extraordinary activity and get to prove to ourselves over and over again, like, yeah, I'm strong enough. I am good. I am capable. I got this, like 100%. It's
Yeah,
really interesting.
for sure. And I think like everyone has a story, but I think all ultra runners, like you said, I'm like, I swear all ultra runners have some form of childhood trauma. Like
Yeah.
something brought them here.
Yeah,
But
there
like,
was
go
there was a
ahead.
meme, I think, that it was like a Jeopardy thing, and it was like, why'd you get into ultra running? And the categories were like substance abuse, childhood trauma, like poor life decisions, and then like the number afterwards. And I was like, yep, that checks
Pretty much.
out. That's
Yep.
it.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, I think all that stuff just, it makes you mentally to the point where it's like you are stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are. You can run 100 miles, you can run 50 miles, you are stronger. You
Yeah.
can do it.
And you know, when you think about it, like I think sometimes when we get to the start line or we're facing something that's really scary, you know, and when you start to feel anxious, what's going on is that self-doubt creeps in and you're like, "Oh God, am I going to be able to cope with this? Am I going to be able to handle this? What if X or what if Y?" But the truth is, dude, think about what an incredible coping person you are. Every single thing that has come your way to date, you've dealt with. Like every single thing. So there's really nothing that you can't handle because when push comes to shove, you cope. That's what, you know, like that's how it works. And you do. And you come
Yeah.
through and you thrive, and it might feel like shit and you might have a really hard time in the moment, but no matter what, you always come out the other side.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of us, you just do it because you have to. You
Yeah.
you were taught to do that
Yeah.
at some point in life, whether it was when you were a kid and you had to get a job to provide for your family, or when you were older and you were forced to be a single mother,
Yep.
whatever taught you that you have to. So you can do all that. You can surely run another 5K. It's only a
Yeah.
5K at a time.
Yeah, I think all those things are so important. Um, what what strategies have you thought about? Is there anything like Heidi mentioned journaling or something? Like, is there anything that maybe you could think of that might be helpful to keep to sort of help you remember that gratitude and why you run, like as you move forward, because you're gonna keep making goals, girl, and you're gonna, you know, you're gonna rock and roll. I know you are.
Yeah.
So like what are a couple things that maybe, I don't know, ideas, maybe things you could implement to put into place to sort of be like, oh, okay, I gotta remember, who am I, what am I, why am I doing this?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like journaling is one of the best ways you can do it just because write it down. And for me,
Yep.
even whenever I'm like in a downward spiral and I can't control my brain, I'll just jump on a dock and I'll just start typing it out and
Yeah.
just put it all
Yeah.
there and get it out. Because once I say it, it's a little easier to move past it. Just put everything out in the open, like the good and the bad. And as I get like older and as I'm making like social media posts and stuff, sometimes I kind of start to share some stuff because it's okay to be vulnerable sometimes. And I've been trying to share not just the good all the time because there's trashy stuff that happens and
Yeah.
most of us
We
probably
started a
struggle
whole
with it.
podcast about it.
Yeah. Yeah, really. And like
So true.
yeah, and like most of us struggle with it, but no one talks
Yeah.
about it. And if
Yeah.
you're not
Yep.
going to talk about it, it's not going to get better. So like just trying to be more open and vulnerable to people because life sucks sometimes, you know? Life
Yeah.
isn't fair sometimes, but
Yeah.
just talk about
I
it.
I love that. And like Heidi said, like that's kind of that's like this whole podcast is our idea. We want to normalize the fact that yeah, sometimes it's just really hard and it sucks and we struggle, and that's okay. Like it is okay. In fact, it's good to struggle. I hope that life never gets, and ultra running or anything ever gets so damn easy for me that I don't get to struggle a bit, because you know what? When we struggle, we grow. that's when we learn. That's when, that's when stuff gets real. And there's such opportunity in that.
Yeah.
So I love it. Write it down, work through it. Just getting the words out and sort of putting things together. I think that's fantastic.
I have to have you share. I'll let you share it, but for some reason, your spirit animal, when we asked on the questionnaire, stuck out to me so much because it just was such a unique answer, and I loved it. So, your spirit animal, Kaylee, please share your spirit animal with us because it's awesome.
All right, so I didn't know. I had to think about it for a little bit, to be honest with you.
It's an epic answer, though.
Yeah.
I took note also.
Yeah, we went with a Wolverine because they're little and they're cute, like they are little, but they have a lot of fight and they won't give up and they don't know when to quit. So
yeah,
they're
awesome.
Small and on the outside they look all sweet and kind of cute, like you said, but they are fierce.
Yeah.
And they are scrappy and don't get in their way.
Yes, I loved that because I just feel like, we asked that question and it's like typical, like, oh, I'm a bear, I'm a wolf, or like just there's more like typical answers. And for some reason, it just really stuck out to me. The fact that you said Wolverine and you had such specific reasoning as to why. And I loved that. And I think that really speaks to like you. And I love that that's what you settled on.
Oh yeah, I don't know when to quit. I definitely don't know when to quit, so.
That's awesome. It's fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you. I think like we've said, like having the insight and the awareness of these things that you want to work on, because we can go out and do our fartleks and our speed workouts and do our hill repeats and do all of that and train our bodies, but training the mind is such a massive part of success literally in everything you do, but it's really important also for the kind of challenges that we face in running ultras.
Yeah, and I think that's also something that a lot of people that don't run ultras don't understand is like they're always like, oh, how's your body? Like, how long did it take you to like walk after? But for me, it's not even like I could run after Badwater. It was fine. It's the emotional and the mental part after a race. Like, it takes so much out of you mentally to push through all of that if you don't run, you just can't understand it.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. And I think but definitely the two of us and anyone else listening can absolutely relate to that.
Yeah.
Sort of side note, I heard you use the word should a couple of times earlier, and you were saying, like, I feel like I should have run faster. I should have. My 2 cents is abandon the word should in your vocabulary because it's just not fair. And just be mindful of whenever that pops into your choice of words, replace it with something else and just see what happens.
All right. That's probably smart. It'll probably make us less sad.
That's awesome.
It's super awesome. So, Kaylee, you've got another race coming up in August, right? Like, is it a 50 miler?
Yes, I think it's 2 weeks, August 24th.
Okay, another one in a couple weeks. And then in the fall, you are going to Hainesport in New Jersey. I might see you there. I'll probably come volunteer.
Okay.
And you've got a stout goal for that one too. So what are we gonna practice all these new journaling and mindfulness skills and apply them towards in October? Is it October?
Yes. There's a lot. I know that to have big goals, there's also a chance that you can fail pretty big. And my friend Gandhi, I think that's how you say his last name.
He is so awesome.
Yeah, but he always says fail big, don't win small, which I really like. So like I'm trying to qualify for the USA 24-hour national team as a teenager, and that's my last opportunity to qualify as a teenager because then I'm going to turn 20 years old after that. So it's kind of like full send it. I have to do it,
Heck
and I have to
yeah.
go hard, and it's gonna suck if I fail. It's kind of like how I wanted to break the goal at the 10 to 19 age group record, and now I will never have that chance again because I'm moving into the 20-year-old age bracket at Badwater. So I just really want to go after this, and even if I don't make the team, because making the team is going to be even harder, right now
Yeah.
I'm just really focused on trying to qualify for the team as a teenager.
awesome.
So
On getting
I
that
need,
qualifying number. And you know what? Like you said, yeah, there's a chance that you could fail. There's always a chance any one of us could fail. But what if you don't?
exactly.
Like,
What if we
there's
don't?
also a really friggin' good chance that you are going to rock and roll and just have an
Absolutely.
amazing day, you know? So don't cut yourself don't look, you know, just send it. Shoot your shot. Go for it.
Yeah, don't win small.
Yeah, I love that. And I love Om's phrases. He's got the best, like the best posts. Om Gandhi is out there. He's one of the partners at Run Try Bike, another fantastic podcast. They have a publication. Check out their website. But Om is out at Bigfoot right now, getting it done. Yeah,
Yeah.
at
And
this very moment.
yeah, he's another guy who he's even overcome a lot, and he's just
Yeah.
now starting to open up more about
Yep.
like everything that he's gone through and like why he's out here. He has, if you check him out on social media or check out his Run Try Bike, like he's got a really good story.
Absolutely. Oh, I completely agree. And I love how I feel like it just seems like a lot more frequently now we hear from people who are just open and honest and like sharing more than just the bright and shiny buckles, because there's so much more to it than that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the buckles are pretty. They are bright and shiny.
Yeah,
but
they are, I know.
There's a lot more behind those buckles. There's a lot more that
Yeah.
goes into them.
Absolutely. It sounds like a phenomenal goal. Super stoked for you. So excited. Kaylee, wherever you go with this running thing, whatever happens, like you have acquired life skills that I've thought about this. If I were like a hiring manager and you were applying for a job with me, like I would hands down hire you just simply based on the fact that, oh my gosh, the kind of grit, perseverance, and dedication you have to take to do what you have done at your age in the last 5 years, you can freaking do anything. Anything. The world is
Thank
your
you.
oyster. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're gonna see, I foresee us seeing really big and awesome things from you. For sure.
Well, thank you guys.
whether
Thank
it's
you. I
running or
appreciate it.
not, like
Yeah.
seriously. Yeah.
Kaylee,
Thank you.
how can our like listeners follow you and keep up with these big goals of yours?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. It's just my last name dot my first name, so Frederick.Kaylee. And then Facebook, if you send me a friend request and you look like a runner, I'll accept it. So, yeah. Yeah, or Facebook.
That's awesome, Kaylee. Yeah, I'll link your Instagram in the show notes so that people can follow along. And I'm excited to like see you, aim for these huge goals you've got coming up
Shoot
in
for
the
the
next few
stars.
months. And I'm cheering you on. And I'm excited to follow along. And yeah, I know you're gonna do great things. So, yeah.
Super exciting.
Thank you so much, Kaylee, for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you sharing your story, and I got a lot out of this conversation, so I hope everyone else did too.
Definitely.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you guys for having
Thank
me.
you
I'm
so
really glad I could
much. Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank
All
you
right.
guys so much for listening. We so appreciate your support, and just give Kaylee a follow, give us a follow at Let's Run That Again, and we'll catch you next week for our next episode. So just remember in the meantime to stay curious and embrace the challenges.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys. We appreciate your support so much. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to leave us a review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tag us on our Instagram at Let's Run That Again and give us a shout out when you listen. And as always, we welcome feedback from you and are open to ideas and guests for future episodes. Reach out on our Instagram or email us at letsrunthatagainpod@gmail.com.